Hello, everybody. Welcome to Q&A Tuesday. We're back, and at the time of this recording, it's the end of December 2022. And a lot of people in the Western Hemisphere, at least, are in the dark, quiet, stormy, snowy, cold time of the year. But the calendar that we use, only a few more days of this year. And then we start with a new one, January 1st. I decided to answer the question today, which I've gotten this similar question many times. Is it possible to lose weight without restricting food or restricting my food environment? That's the way the person put it. So in other words, is it really possible to lose weight without dieting, without managing the food, without having a plan or like following kind of external directions on weight loss? So while we all know that there is a zillion ways of eating and there's new things that come out all the time, and that people have tried all kinds of types and ways and methods of eating, all of those are okay. I mean, interesting to see and learn about nutrition and all of that. There is something around asking this deep question: what's the difference between orienting towards that planning and that sort of diet plan, boundary, food plan, restriction? These are allowed, these are not allowed, and that kind of clarity, and just simply being somebody who eats when hungry and stops when full, or who eats somehow and has a normal body, or who feels peaceful about food and eating on the inside, who feels totally peaceful about it. What is going on there? Isn't that what we most want? To actually not really have a need to even create such restrictions and boundaries with it all, because we just don't have the desire to over with the food and eating. Well, sure. So, of course, maybe that's all we have access to, something like that, and that's all we really long for, is somehow what's happened along the way where we're born naturally able to be in balance with food and eating. And then something comes along and the learning happens and psychology happens and ideas happen, and those are all powerful and important to look at. And we get flooded with these different things as they pile up, and then there's a response that happens within where we're eating an off-balance way. We're just totally off balance, and we're saying, oh my God, look at this. The body is weighing too much, or there's an incredible amount of control, even if the body is normal or thin. Constantly there's a fist tightening sense of control. We know what that's like. Okay, so this question. And of course, when you have this question, and I see it, right? Is it possible? Is it possible to lose weight without restricting? Of course, it's possible. If you just simply work with that, is it possible? Yes, it's possible to lose weight without restricting your food or restricting the food environment. Like, I like that the last piece of that question is that it can feel so harsh and difficult if just by seeing the food, like entering an environment where there's a whole bunch of food, like a buffet or something, all of a sudden all the defenses come up, or the panic, or the ideas about being in balance are thrown out the window, and we just need to go because that's and eat and overeat. And a lot of people have been feeling at this time of year, when there's been holiday season and vacations and gatherings and feasts and family and people working together that way, and making things and sharing things with each other and giving things gifts that are edibles. A lot of people feel like their food environment has been flooded with tasty things. if there was a natural sense inside of not needing to restrict that or not even wanting it, of course that's possible then to remain in balance, to move into balance. So love the question, because we're assuming there's an off balance thing happening. Of course, why would he be here if there wasn't? I need to lose weight. So I would say let's look at the relationship to restriction, because a lot of times there'll be a decision that's restricting something, and I will therefore suffer. And sometimes restriction is so harsh, it's amazing. I've talked to people, it's amazing how long the restriction effort extends, and there'll be ideas that I need to be in total control of this forever. I mean, you feel that it's very different than that kind of control and method for weight loss. It's very different than like somebody who has a peanut allergy. They just know not to eat peanuts. If they eat a peanut, they could die. I've had a friend who had a peanut allergy, and the first time it was very, very critical. And the second time there was an accidental nut in something that he ate in high school, and he almost died in the hospital. And he just knows absolutely for the rest of his life to check everything. And their household, when he married and had children, they just grew up never having, the kids did not have the peanut allergy, but they grew up never having anything with peanuts in it in the house, because even the smell was sort of disturbing to this person. And they just knew that's just the way it is. And there isn't a, oh no, it was just something that was completely relaxed, and a movement of like, if you're playing the game of Monopoly of life, here's your one of the things that you have to deal with, you have to work with. And this is the fun of it, the fun of it, the handicap of it, as they say. You play a game. So much in this. And I'd say first is to look at what the ideas about restricting food are. When food becomes something that is being used, or any kind of compulsion, to help out an emotional experience, then it's going to be difficult to go without it, because that emotional experience is going to be there with unmet needs or something that is wanted, and we'll feel as if we can't manage or work with it in some way, because it's just the absence, it's just simply taken away. So I find it is powerful to look at this thing called restriction and see what it is I'm thinking about. In a way, the word no, or the orientation to not having something. So if our compulsion is insulating us from something, or sedating us from some emotional experience, or protecting us from something, or comforting us from often like ways of relating, any kind of compulsion here, then there may be something within where we need to acknowledge that and let ourselves help ourselves, like as if we have I like the idea of an image of a parent inside of us that's really calm and clear and very assertive, and an inner child inside that's saying, that feels desperate and wants more, and doesn't like it if there's restriction, or the toy is taken away. And I don't mean to mock the compulsive experience, because I know that there's so much suffering in it. It's not like a toy. It seems to be a substitute for something, or it's coming in to help naturally. Even seeing that compulsion as a medicine that's being applied, because it doesn't know how else to work with it. But I'd say because this question is around restriction and concern around restriction, noticing that restriction hasn't felt good. The greatest invitation I have for this questioner and for any of us working with this is to see where I feel something is taken away from me, or I can't say no. I can't say no to people. Have you ever noticed that sometimes there's with eating, especially eating compulsion, there often is a sense that there's no, somebody with eating tendencies is everyone's best friend. They don't want to make any strong boundaries. They're kind and they're giving. I have the image in my head of one that there's a nurse, and that person has trouble with food and eating and tends to use food or have this compulsive overing around food and eating, and is available, 12, 15-hour days to attend to other people's needs. That's an extreme example, but just consider that within ourselves, like something around this working with how we are with people and saying yes, just thinking there's a yes, 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 and a difficulty. I know I myself felt tremendous difficulty, still might have I'm not so sure if my answer is yes or no, but that's different than just being an automatic yes. Here's what I'm feeling right now. I'm having a hard time talking about this subject. I feel nervous right now that you just brought that up, or whatever I need to do to sort of create some solid ground for myself. We can call that boundaries or whatever, but just see the thoughts that are all boiling in there that are often really old conditioned thoughts. And that was definitely an automatic impulse, kind of reactivity within me, is to be sort of nice and say yes and do what is asked of me and be kind to others and not say no or be avoidant. And of course, then this incredible desire to eat. And for me also purging, be sort of like getting out all the yesing, releasing all that. But it's different for different people. And you don't even have to know. That's the thing. You don't even have to know exactly what it is or how it is. Just seeing my relationship to this word restriction. And can I work with this, with compulsion, without rules and regulations? And to ask yourself what the trouble is with restriction and rules and regulations. We sort of know what that's like. I've worked with so many people who've been on long diets or rules and regulations with, not a bite out of the management of that, and felt like a lot of control, and just didn't have any sort of loose, open ground for that, or loose is not even the word, like just availability to have some kind of other experience. It's done with a lot of fear. And at the same time, there's the person, like, for example, who doesn't eat the peanuts ever. It is they never, ever, ever have those. And they're not upset. They aren't worried about restricting it. You find out what's right for your body and how things work for you. So in the Eating Peace Inquiry Circle, which it's a gathering of people who get together Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just, you can come to only Tuesdays or only Thursdays. Just want to say a little bit about that right now. We gather and we go in depth into the self-inquiry around what it is and how we're seeing something in this process. And just last week, somebody was speaking about this very thing, that they're seeing a lot more, but they're still eating that thing, and they don't want to restrict sugar in this case. They're just continuously moved to sugar, and they don't like the idea of not having it. But freedom is really being able to say no to it, as well as yes, if you want to say yes, really, with your rational, adult, kind, compassionate, unconditionally loving self, who you are, not all the stories that are in your mind. And as she and the others who were gathered to look at this, to inquire, thought, what would it be like to just spend the rest of the day not having any of that candy in the house? That it might be very freeing and might be easier than we think. And there might not be this, here I am restricting. I mean, there's all these minutes and hours, really, of not eating. Like, eating doesn't take that long. We all need food to live. But eating, even if you just says, let's say 3 meals a day, which many cultures, that's what we're doing, 3 meals a day. And I'm not saying it's always like that or that you need to do that, but it's the amount of time that you're actually spending acquiring food and bringing it into your body, which is kind of an amazing process, and then allowing it to be present in the body and be fueled by processes that we have no idea. It's just amazing that just does what it does. We don't have to use our minds to make any of that happen, but we can just be open and peaceful about it. That we do that, that's a very limited amount of time. It's very funny, really, in the 24 hours that we have in each day. And to not be sad about that, but just to notice that's just perfect. So you can find where you perceive this restriction happening and that it's required, and why is it that I feel upset about that? How is it that I call it restriction in the first place? Restrict, strict, tight, firm, solid, clear, no exceptions. However you're seeing this word and this experience of being restricted from something, and is there anything else that I am restricting myself from in my life as far as relating to other people? Can I also look at that too? How am I seeing that if the absence of something looks like pain or suffering, how is it that I'm seeing that? Where does that come from? Can I question that? Yes, I can. I can question everything. Who would I be without my story? Who would I be without my story? Saying no is so honest and so kind. Do you want more food? No, the body is full right now. No, I'm done. And we're not even really up to us. It's certainly not up to the mind. We feel it in the body. But to be upset, oh, that's so sad. I'm restricted from having more. It just feels like the right balance. Imagine drinking a glass of water. When you're thirsty, you just drink until you feel satisfied, and then you're done. And you're going to have more water in the future. But you don't feel like, oh, that's too bad that I can't have more water. It could be exactly the same with food or eating. If food is not substituting for anything else, or any compulsion is not substituting for something else that's wanted or needed or desired, then it just is what it is. Food, nothing more. And it's set up to be pleasurable. Of course, we're going to love eating and enjoying food. It's good that it is. It's wonderful. Something that's hooked up like that, but not for more than is required. So I'd say, well, look at this relationship around restriction and this weight loss that feels like it would be more in balance. Nothing wrong with that. And that I know that I want to shift something because this is what it looks like if I want to lose weight. So I want to see deeply what's happening in here, that there's something extra that's happening, or there's something where food's being substituted for something else, and I'm using it for an activity or a need that I could get elsewhere, that I could find balance with in another area. And the best way I know how to do that is, it might sound like work. The work is called work, as I heard Byron Katie say, because it actually is some work, but to inquire into what it is that I'm thinking and feeling. The only reason we ever over or intentionally under anything is because of thoughts and feelings. The only reason. There's not other reasons out there. So that's good news, because I can question, can see what it is, the way that I'm seeing things, and I can question it. What if it's not true? What if it could be another way? What if this thing that I'm calling restriction isn't really restriction? And maybe it is. How I'm seeing this restriction might be so tight and fist tight like this, and so controlled that it is full of restriction. It's full of something. What if that's not necessary? What if I could look at it like it's something that's really supporting me, and I could find the benefit and the health and the beauty of a no and a yes in ways of relating to people, in life itself, in stories that I'm thinking, in foods, so that I don't perceive I'm suffering and deprived. Like, often that restriction word means I'm suffering and deprived. I feel quite balanced with food and eating, right? And I remember when I wasn't. And I don't feel like I'm restricting anything. Is it possible to lose weight and I have a normal weight body? Is it possible to be at a weight without restricting food or restricting food in the environment? Absolutely, because I'm experiencing it. And I know everyone can do that. You have the capacity to be there. And it doesn't look like I'm eating all day. It doesn't look like I'm having big binges. It doesn't look like lots of overing either. And it's not thinking, here I am restricting. So there is just a way of seeing that differently that can provide immense balance and peace and joy with food being a friend. So in summary, there's a lot here, but I would say probably the place to begin to look is relationship to restriction itself, and relationship to being said no to saying no yourself. Relationship to no. There's yes and there's no in life in any moment, and I know it can shift a lot within. And just see what your relationship is to that experience. And doesn't mean you have to become some sort of firm commander or something like that, or whatever it is that you picture no looking like. But really seeing how you experience no, looking at it, suffering around it, and questioning that and turning it around. So we do that in the Eating Peace Inquiry Circle. These are the things, exactly the kind of things we bring up, so you spend some time. And anyone can join for 1 month or as long as you want. And it's a sliding scale. And I invite you and recommend coming if you want to look at these kinds of concepts within and share how you're seeing your relationship with food and eating and compulsion, and consider another way. Consider it to be different, so that we're changing deeply from the inside out, and we just don't use food or see food in the same way that we have been, in a more balanced way, where there's no overing and undering necessary. So, all right. Lots of love, everybody. Happy New Year. It's possible for any one of us to access that balanced place within. You've got it. Everyone has it available to you. It's not gone forever. Even if you say, oh, I've had this problem for so long, that is a story. Notice you have to have that in the mind. Even if it's been your experience, it's still a story to be looking at. It's possible for the change to happen any moment. Any moment. One question away, I like to say. You're one question away from seeing it differently. You could start with, is it true? All right. Lots of love, everyone. Good to be back with you. See you next week.